is the most interesting man in the world.
And I didn't expect this when they made the move. I saw and I heard what people were saying, and it seemed valid. It seemed like he was just another body. Laken Tomlinson, 10 years in the NFL. He's played with San Francisco. He got paid by the Jets. He's played with a number of teams. And immediately when he was signed, the running joke on X was, man, this guy's barely better than Shaq Mason. And in a lot of advanced statistical areas, Shaq Mason, even last year, even overweight and what he was, he graded out better than Laken Tomlinson. And Laken Tomlinson was barely in the top 50 when it came to guards and where guards were ranked. But then you dive closer and you take a closer look at this Laken Tomlinson guy. And as you're seeing the news of Laken Tomlinson, you look in the comments and you see that both of his former teams passionately think he sucks. They think he's the worst thing ever. If you listen to Jets fans, and you got to take what they say with a grain of salt, because Jets fans are just, they're nasty. They're weird. They like to slide in DMs if you say something about the Jets. It's a passionate fan base. Shout out to Jake Asman out there doing his thing on YouTube, one of my digital mentors, and he's still doing his thing in radio as well. But the Jets think that he sucks. Seattle fans think that he sucks. Despite the fact he made the Pro Bowl with the 49ers, he's looked at one of those guys. He's looked at, if you just listen to what those fan bases say, as a guy who kind of cashed out and hasn't played good football since. But then you take a close look at this guy. And this is where it becomes really, really interesting when it comes to Laken Tomlinson. You look at this game log and you look at these stats and you see that this guy, and they didn't start the 17-game season until 2021. This guy has started literally every football game that he's played in, and he hasn't missed a game since 2018. You go back to 2018, this guy has started every game. So if he's as bad as everyone says that he is, and I'm talking about Jets fans and Seattle fans, it's wild that this guy has started literally every single game since 2018. That's impossible that's damn near impossible for good players to do. Really good players, because of how dangerous the game is and how physical the offensive line position is. You go to 2017, the guy started 15 of 16. So he has started every game but one since 2017, and he started every game since 2018. Then you look at the games played. He's missed one game in 10 seasons. One game in 10 seasons, which is just absolutely insane. And the other thing that I find interesting about Laken Tomlinson is the one position group that we've talked about with the Texans that is having a complete overhaul, rightfully so, it was pretty bad last year, is the offensive line. And we've seen D'Amico Ryans bring in some of his guys to kind of shift the culture. Now, there's talent around, but he's brought in guys to shift the culture. And maybe it's not time appropriate, but Jimmy Ward was one of those guys who D'Amico Ryans brought in from San Francisco and on the field and really off the field before. We got to see what happens with him. Jimmy Ward was one of those guys who shifted it. You also saw Azeez Al-Shire do it and immediately become a captain and one of the leaders and one of the guys that D'Amico Ryans will pound the table for. And you could kind of see the impact on the defense. Laken Tomlinson was in San Francisco. He played with Trent Williams. And Laken Tomlinson, if you watch OTAs and you watch minicamp, and I know that it wasn't open practices, but that's why I'm kind of your eyes. He seems to be the leader of the group. If you just walked into the practice facility and you looked at the Texans offensive line, you said, okay, you got to spot out and you got to tell me who the leader of this offensive line is. It's kind of him. He's rallying the troops. He's getting guys to the right spot. He seems to be one of the more vocal. Trent Brown's also vocal, but he's not actually out there. But he seems to be the leader of the group. And I heard him on Texans radio and on the Texans YouTube. And we know who the best offensive lineman was for the Texans last year, but we also know what the criticisms were. Laken Tomlinson also kind of sounds like the anti-Laramie Tunsil. And if they truly are trying to shift the culture for better or worse of this offensive line, it kind of feels like this might be the guy to do it. Let's hear from Laken Tomlinson, a little bit of what he had to say on Texans radio, and just listen to this. And if you are trying to change things, I think this might be the right guy.
When I get here, I just get to work. Yep. You know, I have to really worry about, obviously I got to learn new teammates, learn how to work with new teammates, but just being here for OTAs, I mean, that's why I'm here for OTAs. I'm getting to learn to work with the guys and, you know, just showing them how, you know, what I'm about.
Yeah. As an O-lineman, what do you get out of OTAs? You got to know where to be, obviously. You're learning this Nick Caley system. And discuss that a little bit, if you could, Laken, about how this is different or similar from other systems you've run.
For sure. Obviously, you know, coming here, working with Nick, it's new for everybody, obviously, new offense. And working here with Nick, with the guys in the offensive line room, is this period right now is very important because this is where we start our chemistry. You know, it's very important for me to be here because I want the guys to be able to see how I work and kind of learn how to work with me so I can learn how to work with them. You know, especially that, I mean, that's live or die offensive line, you know. When you have those 5 guys out there, they got to be able to operate as a unit. So the more exposure you have around the guys, it's just a better for their offensive line and better for the team.
Yeah. You mentioned
he is the most interesting man in the world.
I'm not sitting here saying that they got some sort of all-pro caliber guy, but when you look at a guy that has started that many games, knows what D'Amico's about, is talking about the importance of all being together. He's clearly the leader of this unit right now. When they first signed Laken Tomlinson, I just thought they were just bringing in a body, and he might end up being that. But the value might go beyond his talent, especially if you're trying to shift things. And a lot of times whenever guys are trying to shift culture, much like how D'Amico kind of brought in his guys, and you see guys bring in their guys to shift it, it goes beyond their actual performance. And nothing needs to be shifted and nothing needs to be improved more than this offensive line. And you look at how this guy moves, how he's been able to stay on the field as long as he is, how he sounds and stuff like that. This guy went from someone who was kind of a WikiLeaks where all you hear is bad things about him. He might be one of the most interesting guys with the Texans. And quite frankly, if he is the leader of this offensive line, given just how much this offensive line has held this team back, not just last year, but over the course of franchise history, if he can just be a little piece and kind of a snowball effect, or dare I say, in the words of D'Amico Ryans and others, iron sharpening iron, might be the most interesting Texan, and quite frankly, might be one of the most important. Laken Tomlinson, my gosh, wasn't that familiar with your game? Once you kind of dig into it and look at it,
he is the most interesting man in the world.
Keep an eye on him. That's an interesting sign. It's just fascinating to see how many games he has played. So Laken wasn't really familiar with the game. I am now. It'll be interesting to see what exactly that looks like for